My name is Michael Muthukrishna. I'm professor of economic psychology and affiliate in developmental economics and data science. Welcome to my exp. So most animals, if you look at their behavior, it's determined by instincts, by genes that they acquire from their parents, and also some amount of learning through, reinforcement learning, trial and error. So where the food is, where the predators are so you can avoid them, where the prey is so you can go and hunt it. So, there's some amount of individual learning. Humans have a third source of information, or a second source of inheritance that we get from our societies. And that's what we call, in my field, culture. So it's the beliefs, the values, it's ways of thinking, it's technologies, it's institutions. It's effectively software that runs on our minds. So what makes humans so different to other animals is that we're not just reliant on genetic hardware, we are also able to think beyond our lifetime of experience through accumulated software. There are many examples of this and many signatures in our physiology that reveal the importance of culture. So let me start with one of those. Compared to other great apes, we're rather weak actually. We also have very weak jaws and we have very short guts and giant brains. Now, the only way that we can feed those calorie-intensive brains, because remember, brain tissue is about 20 times as energetically expensive, so it requires about 20 times as much calories relative to muscle tissue as the rest of your body, as muscles do. So what most animals do because of that is they focus on brawn. They focus on bigger muscles to be faster, to chase down that prey or outrun predators. We focused on brains. And in order to do that, we had to discover fire and we had to learn to cook food. But the interesting thing is that if I were to ask you to light a fire and nobody showed you how to do that, you'd actually have a hard time. The ability to make fire and the ability to cook are not in our genome. And they're not discovered every generation through trial and error. Instead, they're passed down culturally. And what's fascinating is the process by which that occurs. Because it isn't a process of intelligent design, it's a process of cultural evolution. So variation, people trying all kinds of different things, transmission as we acquire things from the previous generation, often without really understanding. We have very limited causal models of why we brush our teeth or eat 3 times a day or sleep when we do and so on. And selective transmissions. We don't just learn at random, we try to learn from the people who seem the smartest, who seem the most successful, or whom other people are learning from. So this is what we call cultural evolution. When the environment is very, very stable, then genes are the best solution to adapt to that environment. So if you imagine something like climate, right? Or how much sunlight you should get. Human skin color is very well predicted by latitude. So the further south you go, the more sunlight you get. Your skin allows you to synthesize vitamin D. But if you get too much UV radiation, then you're at risk of skin cancer. And if you get too little, you're at risk of vitamin D deficiency. Now, that solution is a genetic solution. It is the amount of melanin in your skin that protects you from too much sun, but allows you to absorb the right amount. It's not an individually learned solution. It's not a cultural solution. We have new cultural solutions when there are mismatches, right? So if you are, for example, a light-skinned Australian of European ancestry, you need to put some sunscreen on. You're too far south for your genetics. If you are a dark-skinned European, you should probably be consuming some vitamin D. You're not getting enough sunlight for your genetics. So what they showed was that when the environment is very stable, as it is, even though it varies by the season, it's relatively stable across latitudes, genes are a good solution for that. If the environment is very unstable, so it's massively varying, the temperatures are going up, the temperatures are going down within a lifetime, this is very, very difficult for genes to adapt to because today the water is here, tomorrow it's there. Today you're eating these red berries that you're genetically adapted to eat, but tomorrow you got to figure out how to eat the blueberries or something. So that's when you get trial and error learning. To understand human behavior, you have to understand that we are the product of millions of years of genetic evolution, but also thousands of years of cultural evolution as societies adapted to different places around the world, and of course our short lifetime of experience. And so if you understand what determines what someone is going to do or what a society is going to do, you have to understand where they're from. You have to understand what their societies had to deal with. And that allows you to understand how much they care about their families and how much they adhere to norms and a whole host of other behaviors. So that is the secret to what makes humans so different, is that we are the product. We outsourced our cognition to a collective brain. We distributed it and we stored it as software, not as hardware, and not needed to be learned. We are smarter than our short lifetimes should suggest. One of the most important forces that has led to the modern world in which we live, that is often underappreciated, is energy. Everything that humans are capable of doing, we're capable of doing more. It's a great multiplier, together with technology, to have stored sources of energy at our disposal. And so for this reason, if you look at just about any graph of human progress, so any measure you want, so child survival rates, lifespan, health, size of polities, violence, or the decline of violence, what you'll find is that everything is kind of flat throughout history. So all of those things you learn about as being important, the fall of the Roman Empire, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, it's all kind of flat until we hit the Industrial Revolution. And then everything just hockey sticks upward. And what I would argue is we're still living in the shadow of that moment. And what that moment was the discovery of stored sunlight, effectively. So peat turned to black rock that we call coal. Later on, oil and natural gas. Being able to use that to travel across the globe, to create factories, to produce things at a far more efficient rate, because we're able to multiply human ingenuity in that way, has led to the modern world. It incentivized us to work together in ever larger groups. My least favorite graphic image of evolution is the March of Man. You've probably seen it. Basically, it starts off with this primate, and the next image is a primate who's kind of standing up, and onward we go until we get to a fully upright human, maybe with a tool in their hand. It creates this impression that evolution is teleological. It's this kind of pathway that just goes up and up and up, and it's always driven by progress. And it's not true, right? So because of that vision of evolution, people have questions like, well, if evolution is true, why do chimps exist? It's like saying, if family trees are correct, why do my cousins exist? They operate in different niches. Or similarly, that the inevitable trajectory for humanity is upward, ever greater scales of cooperation, ever lower levels of violence, ever greater systems that are good for more people. It's not inevitable at all. It's an evolutionary process where different societies, or even different parts of society, are running experiments, if you like, on how to work together, how to live together, where new technologies are. And the winners persist over time, and the losers don't. But the trouble is that some of the lower scales of cooperation can undermine higher scales. So evolution is a constant battle. I think understanding that this duality between competition and cooperation, and understanding it's not this inevitable trajectory upward, and it's certainly not the March of Man, is probably one of the biggest misconceptions.